Welcome everybody to the Weaverville Community Forest meeting on November 18th, 2021. And so at this point in time, we are going to start the presentation session for the evening. We have our Nowelmuck Ventu tribe, then to the BLM, the United States Forest Service, the Watershed Research and Training Center, and then the Trinity Trail Alliance. So again, we're going to run through our presentations first, and then we are going to go into our question and answer series in breakout rooms at the end. Thank you all for joining us. And without any hesitations, we will jump into the Nowelmuck Ventu tribe.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. We are very excited to be in partnership with the Weaverville Community Forest as well as Trinity County RCD and all of the partnerships that come along with that in our mutual projects. On our first slide, I would like to share our Aboriginal territory. As you can see, it runs from Siskiyou County, west of Dunsmuir and Mount Shasta, clear down to the Cottonwood Creek area to the south, west clear over to almost Burnt Ranch, and to the west side of the Sacramento River on the east portion of that map. I thought you might enjoy having a copy of that as we're planning these projects. You can see that there's lots of territory out there that we have concerns and passionate about in regards to cultural resources being protected, our sacred sites, as well as, you know, working towards the mutual goal of all of your projects, as well as the community needs. So, can you go to the next slide? I have the board of directors. There's one more. That one that you have up is the last one.
We're not presenting the addresses for the board of directors.
Oh, okay. Well, I respect that. Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that our tribal chair is John Hayward. Our vice chair is Bob Borden. Our secretary and administrative assistant is Cindy Childress. I'm the treasurer as well as the cultural resource officer. And our council is David Foster, Donna Landry Rayling, Jim Kerrigan, Harvey Jackson, Jody Johnson, Shelby Tucker, and our alternate is Shashina Hayward. And we're a real good group. We like to get things done, and we have been working very diligently to provide quality as well as, what's the right word for it? Collaborative services. So we are happy to be on board, and we can talk about this last slide here. I did put my cards on the bottom of that last slide just so you can have my contact information if you need it. Cindy Childress has been highly involved in this project, and she is someone that is always available for the tribe. We have a Facebook page that she is diligently monitoring and providing information. One thing I'd like to share with you is that we have recently obtained the Cox Bar School, and we are, our goal and vision for that is to make it a cultural resource center, having a dance arbor and cultural gatherings and events, as well as a community center for anyone that would like to come to any event or possibly have an event there at that school. So we're excited about that new venture. and very excited about being partners with the Weaverville Community Forest and TCRCD as well. Some of our goals with the latest project with you in your community is we would like to share expeditionary learning and education for the youth of your community, and working closely with the school district. And right now we're planning 3 different field trips coming up, geared to high school students. But eventually we'd like to include the younger kids, and as well as community walks. It's very interesting to go out in our natural resources and learn about watershed and ethical and sustainable harvesting, and sharing that knowledge when you go back home or you go back to work, and talk about maybe what you experienced out there in the forest. Medicinal and edible plants. Our guru, if you will, is Ted Dawson. He has several multiple master's degree in plants, and he makes a lot of products that are healing, and he's very knowledgeable with that, and also is very active in many cultural activities in the North State, not just in Trinity County. Stewardship is a big one for us because we really want to teach the youngsters, not only are you welcome to visit the forest, but, please pick up your litter, please, leave a light footprint, and also teach others to do the same, having respect for our forests so others may enjoy it as well. And then lastly, but most importantly, we are excited about building partnerships, as I said before, regarding our mutual projects. And we're looking forward to hearing from the community and possibly, what you think that you'd like to see in the community forest. So with that, I will end my presentation. But again, thank you very much for including us, and we are excited to be a part of the team.
And with that, we'll turn it over to Heidi Rogers from the Reading BLM.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Heidi Rogers, and I'm a forester with the Reading BLM. And right now, our office, we're proposing a project. It's called the Organ Mountain Forest Health and Resiliency Thinning and Fuels Reduction, which I've shortened the name of that EA to just simply the Organ Mountain Project. Real quick, Amelia, what slide's up? I can't see what's showing right now. Is it the aerial photo? Oh, perfect, thank you. Came back, okay. So the project location is in Township 33 North, Range 10 West, Sections 11 and 14. The west side of the unit is real close to the Organ Mountain Summit there, which is on SPI land. And access to the unit is from Oregon Street, and then to Upper Democrat Gulch Road, runs kind of right along that north side of the unit where there's access where you could walk in on old roads. It's approximately 139 acres. And what I'm proposing is a thinning. There's signs of, there's some conch. We found there's some evidence of heart rot in some of the trees and butt rot. And there's excuse me. So basically, what we're trying to do is the purpose of this project is really to just improve fire resiliency within the community forest by thinning some of the overstock conifer stands while reducing hazardous fuel loads and restoring the BLM Weaverville Community Forest lands, which include the coniferous forest, oak woodlands, and outer riparian zones in this project area. And the goal is to make it more resilient to drought, disease, and insect infestation as well. We've had a lot of folks asking, that we plan some projects in the community forest. Right now there's all sorts of other fuels projects, but the goal of this project is to retain those timber receipts into the community forest and then provide funding to do other future forestry projects that we may not otherwise get funding for, such as some pre-commercial thinning, which doesn't produce a revenue but balances that cost, and just try to safety up and clean up the areas of the forest and make it safer for the neighbors in the community. Let's see. Okay, and then this photo this shows a more blown up version with the aerial photo. The areas in yellow are areas that are kind of a oak woodland where we remove some of the conifers encroaching in the oak woodland areas. The green polygon right there is kind of showing just a riparian kind of reserve area that we wouldn't be cutting in. And let's see, the plan right now in our planning phases, we wouldn't be building any new roads into the area, but we would be using some of the old roads that were used. Kind of the bottom south half of the unit, that was harvested, I want to say in 1949. And then that little northeast finger area up there, that area's got some trees that are a little younger that had a harvest in the 70s. But those are the only records that I have, aside from a power line right away going through the very tippy top of the northeast there. Those are the only records I have in our office right now of any past treatments or harvests in that area. And that's what I have for right now. If any folks want to have discussion or ask questions, I'll be happy to talk with you in the breakout sessions.
And we'll hand it over to Rob Winkler from the BLM to discuss his fuels projects.
All right, right on. Thank you, Amelia. And thanks, Heidi, as well. All right, so some of these that we talked about in the last year's community forest rollout or accomplishments, what we had planned for the coming year, which we've made some headway on. So if you want to go into the next slide, we can talk about the first project. So the map here is split between two maps, but it's a single project. So the Weaverville Community Protection Project is something that we developed. It's a wildland urban interface based treatment. It's 440 total acres. It's the main goals is to produce these linear fuel breaks along roadways, property boundaries, infrastructure that are established in the community forest, and then especially along adjacent private property and private infrastructure. And then overall, we want to improve access for first responders during wildfire events. We want to establish and improve better evacuation routes for some of the local community that live in and around the project area. And then last, of course, we want to improve stand health, and we want to continue to invest in our treatments in the BLM and the Weaverville Community Forest. both through manual treatment as well as broadcast burning in the future after this treatment area is established. So it'll primarily be a hand cut and pile treatment with some roadside chipping where access is good for road-based chippers. We'll be focused on thinning overstocked shrubs and conifers, standing dead hazard trees, especially along the roads and the property boundaries. We'll be focused on reducing that fuel base where we have the most ability to create strategic holding features for a wildfire or during a wildfire. So these ridgetop roads, especially in the community forest here where that main treatment polygon is, has been something we've been working off of for the last 10 plus years, but are hoping to bolster our efforts in that area. So we are in a planning phase for this treatment. So we've written the compliance document. We have partnered with the Trinity County RCD through the Weaverville Community Forest Stewardship Agreement we have with them. They've been pivotal and helping us move forward with this and other treatments that I'll talk about. And so we have secured the cultural survey and narrative for the project area through the RCD, as well as a contractor to assist with the survey, both spring and fall. And then the BLM field office will be handling the wildlife survey and NSO monitoring in-house. And so that's what we're looking at. Timeframes. We won't be done with a signed document until the fall of 22 after our last surveys are completed, but hope to pivot pretty quickly into implementation in the project. So looking to immediately do work in-house with the BLM, with Trinity RCD, and then likely some forestry contractors to help implement. And so I think Chris with the RCD will talk a little about some of the grant awards, and this unit is part of a fire prevention grant that we applied to with the RCD and some other folks. So pretty excited about that. So the funding portion is secured for this. All right. Yeah, next slide. So this is not a different project area. This is in Little Browns Creek. Again, partnership with the Trinity County RCD and through the Weaverville Community Forest Stewardship Agreement. And so I know I've talked about this project, but we're out of the planning phases, have a signed EA, feels pretty good. So it's 222 acres of forest health treatment, focused on, again, manual thinning, primarily hand cut and pile, chipping where access is good, and focusing on areas where we can tie our treatment into some of the ridgetop features that have been created by adjoining landowners here, Pacific. And so we hope to finish this initial treatment and then maintain via broadcast burning where it's appropriate. And so we look to treat those western 3 units this fall, winter into the spring until we run into a timing cutoff there. But yeah, that'll be the start. And so similar objectives to the Weaverville Community Protection Project. It's primarily forest health based here for this unit. However, there is a pretty well established community up Little Browns Creek Road that will benefit from some hazard fuels reduction right along the roadway and improve forest health. So those are some of our goals there. We're also pretty excited about securing a forest health grant through CAL FIRE and with the joint application with the Trinity RCD in funding this project as well as some other projects in Trinity County. And so that is a very exciting piece in having the funding portion secured for these treatments. So, you know, this is a fairly big unit or a fairly big treatment area for our field office. So, you know, it'll take us 3 to 5 years to get the initial treatment all the way completed. But we hope to pretty quickly pivot into maintenance phase and broadcast burning where appropriate in the subsequent years. So, you know, I'm excited to hear from the rest of the community forest and the community that are interested in what the BLM is doing in Trinity County and in the Weaverville Basin. So I'm hoping folks are looking forward to coming in and talking during the breakouts and giving any questions that you might have or any suggestions to us that we can help in developing new projects for the community forest. So those are the two big project areas I wanted to talk about. I did want to give an opportunity for our field manager, Jennifer Mata, to talk a little about the community forest and the management of the program.
Thanks, Rob. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jennifer Mata. I'm the field manager for the Reading BLM. And I just want to, thank everybody for attending this evening. I know that there are probably lots of other things that you could be doing in your off hours. So thanks for coming virtually. Hopefully we'll get back soon to some in-person meetings. I think just wanted to note a few things. I'm excited about getting to plant a green sale. Heidi's been on staff now for a few years, but she came over to us and we immediately threw her into a bunch of salvage sales. So it will be nice to actually get to plan some green sales. And then our fuels work, Rob does a really great job of trying to balance our fuels work throughout all of our counties. We cover 5. And so I just want to thank him for continuing to make sure that we're getting fuels work done throughout all of our counties, but also making sure we're focusing on the community forest. The only other thing I wanted to note, and I'll drop a link in the chat, is we are undertaking a large planning process for our field office. We refer to it as the NCIP, the Northern California Integrated Resource Management Plan, it's the long wording. That really sets the focus on our field office for where we go with public land management for about the next 20 years. The last one we finished in 1993. So it's a really great opportunity for people to weigh in not only on how they want to see the community forest managed, but also the rest of the public lands in the Reading field office and also the Arcata office, because they're undergoing the planning process at the same time. So our next kind of big task with that will actually be some public scoping meetings that we're hoping to shoot for in January. But I will post a link to our e-planning site. So if you're interested, you can go there and kind of look around at some of the existing documents that we have already done. The big thing for the community forest in that plan is, under our last plan, the community forest was actually designated as disposal property, which is kind of how we got to having a community forest in the first place when the BLM tried to actually exchange the community forest out of public ownership. So we'll be looking in this plan to make sure that the community forest changes from disposal to retention. So if there are questions about any of that, I look forward to chatting with you guys in the breakout, but I will drop the link to our e-planning website in the chat box. So thank you.
Thank you very much to our presenters from BLM, for Rob, Heidi, and Jennifer for being with us tonight. And also apologies, I didn't thank the Noel Mukwintu tribe, Tracy and Cindy, for your presence and presentations here tonight. So thank you both. And so we're going to move into the Forest Service. We're going to start off with Tim Ritchie, who's going to present on the Weaverville Fuels Program.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tim Ritchie. I'm the Fuels Battalion for the Trinity River Management Unit based out of Weaverville. And for the last couple of years, we have been talking about the planning process for the Weaverville Community Forest fuels treatment. And so phase 1 of that NEPA was signed this past February, and that covered about 1,900 acres just to the north and west of Weaverville. So from Gunnison Gap back down above the high school, across and over to East Weaver. And so within that area, we've already started some contract work, some of which folks may have seen if they're traveling out on Highway 299 to the west of town. And so the WCF phase 1 fuels work under contract right now is about 383 acres. And the bulk of that's up at Gunnison Gap. And that's, we're working on some forest health in there. But we also know that that is a strategic ridge line that helps to protect Weaverville in the event of wildfires. And so the development of that piece of the project was a collaborative project, and locally we're calling it cooperative fuel breaks. And that was developed with BLM, with Sierra Pacific Industries and NRCS. And so the intent is to develop a large-scale fuel break from Gunnison Gap that drops down, crosses over the highway. And so that would cross SPI property, across the BLM property, a corner of which was on Rob's map there a moment ago, and then continue back on up to the Organ Mountain thinning project and on down through Trinity River Lumberland. Because of the fires this past year, we did have to stop our contractor from working when the Monument Fire approached Junction City, with the possibility that fire could cross and rapidly move towards Weaverville and Gunnison Gap. We felt that it was not a good time to continue work up there. And the additional possibility that if they started a fire while they were up there working in the hot, dry conditions we had during the summer. So we stopped all that work on Gunnison Gap. So that portion, we do have about 100 acres complete already. When we brought the crews back to work, they worked down closer to the highway. And that's just right on the edge of the private property. And that ties into the mastication work that the Watershed Center did for us in that McKinsey Loop area where the highway bend is at. We also have a fuel break that we are going to implement with this contract, starting up at Low Gap, where the Sweepstakes Trail is now being put in with many other partners. And that fuel break will come down that old historic dozer line, tie into Jackass Ridge, and continue on down to some of the burning that we've been doing in the community forest in the past. We hope to have all of the thin cut pile work done by early August next year, prior to the real ramp up of fire season. Though there will be some piles left on the landscape, because you guys all know we can't burn piles in the middle of summer. We do plan to burn as many of the piles that have been constructed this year. Again, we're going to use partners to help with that, just like the BLM, the RCD, and the Watershed Center both have some funding that is going to allow them to step out and take some of those units under their crews and complete that work. And so those will be around the bend in the highway where the passing lane starts, and by Moonlee Ditch. For this coming spring, we do have some underburning planned. If all goes well, I hope to implement around 230 acres of underburning, and that will be spread out from around the highway, some more around Jackass Ridge, and then the bulk of it will be over closer to East Weaver, tying into the work that we completed last year for underburning. I think it was a couple of years ago, I spoke about when this project gets underway, we hope to see a significant uptick in our prescribed burn activities. And so at that time, we were doing around 100 acres of underburning a year. And the goal is to get up to around 500 acres a year of underburning. That won't be entirely possible until the phase 2 of the community forest project decision is signed. And so when that is signed, that will go from East Weaver Creek and then cover the bulk of the community forest going back out across Highway 3 and out, and there's some work along Rush Creek Road. We have a good portion of that NEPA work done already, but we still have some ARC surveys that need to be completed out on that side of the project, and botanical surveys need to be complete. So again, it's likely that that will occur around 2023 for that decision. I do want to say that with the passage of the infrastructure bill maybe about a week ago, reading through that, a lot of the things that have become or were included in there is work that we are already doing within the community forest. And so it talks a lot about partnership. It talks about the collaborative process and how the projects rank out. And there's a lot of funding that's also going to be going to cross-boundary projects. So within the community forest, we've already been doing that, and we're going to continue to do that. So I feel like we are in a good spot to compete for some of that funding that comes from the infrastructure bill as those authorities and grants come out to help support some of the work that we're doing here. We have a lot of work ahead of us. There's some other small pile burns out along the trail. I'm not going to forget about you, Jerry. I know that there's a project out there that's very dear to you, and it's on my radar to get completed as soon as we have the opportunity. That's what I have for you guys today. And if you have any questions, hit me up at the breakout, or I'm available anytime here at the office. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate you joining us here tonight. And we are going to pass it on to Mike McFadden, who's going to talk about the trails in the Weaverville Community Forest.
Hey, everybody. Boy, that was exciting to hear. I've been seeing smoke up on the mountain, and I love it. I'm so glad to see that we're getting back into more of a fire regime as we are in a fire dependent ecosystem here. So it's super cool to see that going on. As to trail stuff, next slide, please. We've got some new construction going on as part of this WCF phase 1. And we also have some more volunteerism. Thank you everybody in the community for all you do for our trails. One of the exciting things is the Trinity Trail Alliance has started an Adopt a Bridge program. We have several bridges, 4 or 5 bridges that are very critical to the system, and really what eats a bridge in the long run is wet leaves sitting on it. And so it's really cool to see this Adopt a Bridge program being enacted out there. Every time I walk across a clean bridge, it makes me smile. But we also have some very specific work that's being done. If we can get the next slide. So this one has been completed. This is the Browder Trail. This trail starts, I don't know, can everybody see my mouse, or only I can see it? In the lower left corner of the map here is the bottom part of the hill, and it climbs up through private property. The easement, if you will, was granted, and private dollars were actually used to build that section of trail. And we had a lot of the Trinity Trail Alliance folks and the Reading Trail Alliance folks, to include the RTA trail building tractor out there. And then it comes across the top of the Forest Service area there and ties in at Jackass Ridge. So this trail is completed. There's a little bit of brush work we need to do that, just polish work. But for the most part, it's open for business. People are running it and loving it as we speak. And so next slide, please. The other piece of trail that's constructed and complete is this, the blue lead. This is kind of a new thing for the Weaver Basin trails. This is a very user-specific, one-way only trail. It's like a roller coaster. It's a game changer, if you will, for our trail system for anybody that enjoys mountain biking and specifically downhill biking. And once again, the majority of this trail is on private property, and it was private money paid for the construction of this trail as well. It's making a big splash. I've seen it on the internet and YouTube and stuff. It's really fun. If you like to ride bicycles, I highly suggest you go have a look. And I'm hoping that it doesn't really throw a bad taste in anybody else's mouth, hikers and horsebackers, because everybody has a place, and this trail specifically for bikes. And if anybody attempts to walk up it or ride up it, it could very well be dangerous. People could get hurt. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about climbing it, please don't do that. If you're on foot and you just absolutely have to see it start at the top and come down, and really keep your ears open, because people will be moving on this trail. Next slide. You can see this little purple dashed line. This section of trail got completed this spring by the Student Conservation Association. We had 40 of them here for a training on how to build trail and whatnot. And so this was part of their project work, was to get this tied in. This right directly above East Weaver Campground, as you can see on the map. And there's a little tiny red section that is the old trail. And we're waiting to get a piece of machinery in to close that. But once we get that done, then that little section is going to go away. And for those of you that know that section, that's very steep. It's got those 2 wooden water bars that fail regularly, and it's contributing a fair amount of sediment into that little spur creek that runs right into East Weaver. So we're hoping to get that cleaned up and closed, and then the little purple dash line will be the only way in and out of that little section there. Next slide. So this is what's currently being constructed. The Sweepstakes Trail is what we're calling this one. And so the left tile shows the entire trail from top to bottom, and it's about 5 miles. On the right, that tile is showing what we're hoping to get built before we get snowed off or rained off. So we've got a dozer, a little, Sweeco 500, which has a 2.5, 3-foot bar on it, and a little mini excavator that was donated to the community trails. Working up there currently with Reading Trail Alliance spearheading the dozer effort. Trinity Trail Alliance has had a call out for volunteers. We're seeing people up there working on that as volunteers. And then we've got paid for service folks working with that as well. I believe we're going to have a hot shot crew in here soon doing some saw training and trying to get ahead of these folks with the brush out. So this trail is going to be, another one that I would consider a little bit of a game changer. The Basin Trail system has been wonderful all these years, and now we're making it more wonderful by adding some features that I think a lot of user groups really desire. The Sweepstakes Trail will allow folks to, if they're on their horse, they can ride from town all the way up to a stupendous view site just below Low Gap, and then ride on back down or take the road. I think the trail runners are going to really enjoy this trail. Anyone that runs trails that I know speaks of this type of trail as their favorite type. Once again, it just takes you up into some amazing views. You're so high up, and big wide open shots up into Monument and across the Weaver Basin. And then of course the bicycle community is going to enjoy this trail, both climbing and descending, but I see a lot of descenders on this one. I could see it as a shuttle route. And so, yeah, there it is. We're probably quarter mile into this construction right now. Did I have another slide or is that my last one? Woo, I'm done. All right, I'll see everybody at the breakout who wants to talk.
Thank you very much, Mike. I appreciate it. And we're going to move to Dylan Sheedy. He is the Forestry and Fuels Program Director for the Watershed Center, and he's here to talk about their fuel reduction work within the Weaverville Community Forest. Welcome, Dylan.
Thanks, Amelia. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, my name is Dylan Sheedy, Forestry and Fuels Program Director at the Watershed Center. Quickly, just to start, I want to thank and recognize the Norelmuk-Wintu Nation for being here today and their willingness to provide support and their partnership. This was their ancestral land and was unfairly taken from them during a truly shameful time period in human history. And as a land manager, and you've heard from some other great managers, Rob Winkler, Tim Ritchie, and other folks that have talked today, it's our goal as a collective unit to return this land to a state that is manageable and can be stewarded in the same way that the people who came before us once managed it. And you've heard a lot about prescribed burning, and that is the ultimate goal. But it takes a lot of hard work from men and women in the forest to do fuels reduction and commercial and pre-commercial thinnings, working long years throughout the long months in 100-degree weather to 32-degree weather and snow. And these people, it truly takes a community here and hardworking individuals to make this happen. So with that in mind, I'll share a lot of what we're trying to do in the Weaverville Community Forest. This is true across all of Trinity County. And you can go to the next slide, Amelia. So in Trinity County, or in Weaverville, we have what we call the Weaver Basin Community Protection Project. I know this map is difficult to decipher sometimes, but we're in our third phase of this project. It includes all of the private land that surrounds and is within the community forest. Much of it is, we're trying to get to a condition to where we can return fire to the land. And that includes a lot of chipping, thinning, pile burning, defensible space work around communities and houses, ingress, egress work, much of the same stuff that you've heard from other managers today. You could go to the next slide. So through the first two phases, we've had a lot of success. The first phase of we call this the Weaver Basin Community Protection Project, but it is funded through the Stevens Act, through federal dollars from the U.S. Forest Service. We've completed a lot of environmental compliance work that's allowed us to get a lot of great work done. And from 2017 to 2021, between us and some help from the RCD, we've completed about 50 acres of manual thinning and chipping around our communities, 4 miles of fuel break construction and ingress egress work, and about 120 acres of prescribed burning. Next slide works. So this is one of our main areas where we focus on with the Watershed Center here. This is Hyder-Snyland Foundation property on Jackass Ridge. All of these units that you see have been burned in the last 5 years. It's our goal to return fire to this landscape at a historical fire regime that is about 3 to 5 years. We work closely with our Forest Service partners to make this happen, doing cross-boundary burning where possible. And this is an oak woodland, and we're at the point where we don't really have to do much chainsaw work, thinning work. We're really at a point here where we can safely bring fire to the landscape. And it is a strategic spot for the community. This has proven itself multiple times in the 2008, 2010 Oregon fires. I think there was another one in 2012 before I got here. Almost every time it's gotten to this point where we're doing a lot of management, and it's hung itself up and kept itself out of the community. So this is one of our highest priorities at the Watershed Center. We work with the Forest Service again to help them burn their pieces of the property in the green spots that you see on the left. And the airport is kind of, you can see there, 5 Cent Gulch. So this area right here is where we focus a lot of our efforts. And we will continue to expand with our phase 3 project. I don't know if I have another slide, but we can go back to Amelia and talk about our phase 3 with the bigger map here. So the red parcels at the top of the, where that cursor is there, some SBI land, and then in the horseshoe there below that is some Trinity River lumberland. And we're working closely with our partners there to develop some strong prescriptions that will, include some ridgetop fuel breaks, mastication work, areas again that are going to provide safe firefighter access and activities. It will also, include some prescribed burning, but mostly roadside thinning, piling, chipping, and some ridgetop fuel break construction. We also draw your attention to the purple places on the map. These are, residential areas in which we want to focus our efforts. East Branch Road there, East Weaver Creek. These are communities that are at risk, and we've spent, most of our time this year doing outreach, having community meetings in that area, and talking to people about, home hardening, defensible space concepts, and helping them accomplish those. We truly need to work, from the landowner level out and help protect our communities, our residential areas from the catastrophic effects of fire. And it starts at the homeowner level. And as you've heard from the BLM, the Forest Service, we're expanding from that. And we're really trying to take a look at this from a landscape level and manage this whole area in a way that will allow for, if there is a fire that comes in here, it will not be something that will, destroy multiple communities, residential areas. It will, hopefully we have a long way to go and a lot of work to do, but I believe that we're making great steps in the right direction. We have strong partnerships to do this. Future work planned with our phase 3 includes about 300 total acres of treatment. This includes 200 acres of prescribed fire unit prep work. This could be a combination of the two. It takes a lot of prep work to get these units to a place where you can successfully burn them safely. So we're aiming for about 200 acres of that with about 2 to 6 burn operations spanning 3 burn seasons. You heard Tim Ritchie say they're trying to burn 500 acres a year. Our goal as a Watershed Center is to try to burn about 200 acres, 250 acres a year across Trinity County, and we're working up to that. We will do 100 acres of hand thinning and shipping services for Weaverville residents. The goal is to treat approximately 250 parcels. We've already treated about 15 acres and about 25 different parcels up the East Weaver Branch Road, East Weaver Creek, East Branch Road. We also have CAL FIRE Forest Health project money that will support additional work in the area. This includes 200 acres of prescribed burning in the Weaverville Basin, 350 acres of hand thinning and chipping, and 20 acres of mastication. If there's any questions, I think that's all I had today. I'd be happy to talk to each and every one of you in the breakouts. And we're all in this together. And, we want this community to be safe, and we want to be successful with our work here. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dylan. I appreciate it. We're going to to move to Alan Siegmeller. He is the board chair of the Trinity Trail Alliance.
All right, thanks, Amelia. So as she just said, my name is Alan. I'm the board chair with Trinity Trail Alliance, and you can go to the next slide, please. So I'm just going to talk briefly about a few topics. We'll start off with the LaGrange Classic, kind of an update on the bike race that ran this past year, a little bit about maintenance, and then just some background information on e-bikes. If you can go. So with COVID, we changed the race format this year. So instead of a single day race event, it ran over 2 weeks. So thanks to everyone for your patience with all the course flagging being up for 2 weeks in the Basin. The idea was that people would pick their own time to start the race, and they would record it with an app called Strava, and then submit that ride to the race organizers, who then use Strava's times to do up the finishing, the rankings. Next slide, please. So in this format, we had 130 racers. And in 2020, we wanted to increase the percentage of women riders. And so we were able to do that, not in 2020 because the race didn't run, but in this past year we did. And we think it's part of the change in format. We also added a novice course. So I don't know which of those two changes helped bring up that percentage of riders, but we're going to experiment with it some more next year. We're going to go to a mix of a single day event on Saturday, June 11th, and then a 1 week virtual component for the novice course only in the days leading up to that. You can go to the next slide, please. Amelia, thanks. So as Mike mentioned earlier, and the last time we talked about a year ago, you can go for it, thank you. So about a year ago, we announced that we were doing a Adopt a Bridge campaign. And so we've had one season of that under our belt, and it's happening again this year. You probably didn't see anything about it this year because all the people who signed up to take bridges last year are taking those same bridges again this year. So in this two photos here, it's actually from 2 different years. You can tell by the foliage. And then we have volunteers who continue to do maintenance, both in brushing in the trails and clearing the trails of fallen trees, and helping with the new construction that's been going on this past year. We had about 150 volunteer hours this past year here in the Basin. Can you go to the next slide, please? So one of the things that I think just is an informative piece to put on people's radar is just the topic of e-bikes. So as a way of background information, there's 3 classes of e-bikes. The first class is pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour. So that means that the motor is only engaged when the rider is pedaling. Class 2, there's a throttle, which means the motor can be engaged without pedaling. And then class 3 is, again, pedal assist, but up to a higher limit of 28 miles per hour. And what those upper limits mean is that once the bike reaches that speed, the motor cuts out, regardless if you're pushing on the throttle or if you're pedaling. And this class 3 requires a speedometer. In terms of trail access, around here with the BLM and the Forest Service, we currently aren't permitted to ride the trails with an e-bike. There is room for approval on the BLM portions of the community forest, but that approval hasn't been given. And I just want to mention that Trinity Trail Alliance hasn't actually taken any sort of position on e-bikes at this time. You can go to the next slide, please. So if you're curious to find more information about e-bikes, here's a few links. And then I'm happy to talk about any of these subjects or anything else in the breakout periods. Thanks, Amelia.
I want to thank Alan. Thank you for your presentation and for addressing the e-bikes and helping share that with our communities. I want to thank all of our presenters for attending this evening and for all of our members of the public for joining us, listening through our presentations. And so at this point in time, we are going to conclude our presentation section of the evening. I want to just mention that the RCD has been playing the coordinator role for the Weaverville Community Forest for many years as the stewards, and we love to fill that position. So many of the projects that were mentioned tonight, you also heard that we're supporting and participating in, whether it's funding or on the ground work or partnerships. And we're proud and honored to be a part of the community forest and be working with all of these local agencies to support and provide these opportunities to the community in Weaverville and Trinity County at large. So thank you all for being here with us. I'm going to stop the recording and then we will get into our breakout sessions.
So I can walk you all through how these breakout rooms are going to work.